So this idea is something that I've been coming up with for a minute now, and it's I'm kind of playing it fast and loose with this. But fuck it, I kind of want to get it out of my head. I know they're talking about leaks on potential expansions. I'm not really going to worry about that because we don't really know how the expansion progress is going to work. I think the next piece of information we might get would be at BlizzCon, so I don't really give a shit about anything anybody says until we hear something at BlizzCon, and if we don't hear anything at BlizzCon, then I'm going to know the ideas are bullshit. Basically, you know, Lord of Hatred, Mephisto is going to be the key annual expansions, blah, 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 blah. We kind of already know that. That's not what I want to talk about. They have seasonal progression, which I think is handled poorly. They have long-term progression, which I think is handled poorly. So, I have five ideas that will improve the progression of the game. There's another video that I've been scripting. I've been trying to get it down under 30 minutes, and I just haven't been able to do it yet. But one of the points that's in that idea of mine is that people complain that this is a game for casuals. The hardcore community doesn't like that because the hardcore, I don't mean hardcore as in hardcore game mode. I mean hardcore as in like the grindy players, the level 100s, the streamers, people like myself that are willing to commit the time and investment to multiple characters. So what I mean when I'm talking about hardcore characters is like long-term players. They don't like this game because it's too casual, it's too beginner friendly. I know one of the common complaints is there is not enough depth and complexity to the skill tree. This is not a skill tree, this is a skill path because of how it's set up. And people try and defend it with Paragon. Well, Paragon kind of just ends up being the exact same thing. So that's not the point I want to argue. What are some progression rewards we can add into this game to make this game feel more rewarding for the hardcore player to start working towards more difficult content in the end game? What are some rewards you can give players over time that reward them for their contributions? So number one, I think the challenge system is completely misused. Now there is one thing in here that I kind of like. So you have all these different tabs right here, and these tabs all give you titles. I don't want a fucking title. Nobody cares about a fucking title, okay? That's not the point. But under the section of monsters, there's this interesting little tidbit right here, right? That you have, where for killing different enemies, right? So you have, like, let's say, slay 1,000 bandits, you get a title. Slay 5,000 bandits, you get a title. Like 10,000 bandits, you get a different title. I want a bestiary. I want a bestiary that is tied to your character. Okay? Tied to your character right here. Put it under profile. Put it under bestiary. Now, how is this going to have a progression reward tied to it? That you might be asking that. My thought is this. All right. So you have the ability here. You can set a title. You have your clan tag. You have your emblem. Blah blah blah. I don't really care about that. Here's what I want to know about. You have another option, bestiary. So it would tally every single kill that this character would go get. So for example, I walk outside right here and I kill these vengeful spirits. They're all grouped up over here. Kill all these guys, right? Right. Let's say, loosely, let's just say I killed 5 spirits there. Okay. Check your profile. It shows, you go click on, say you click on this, say this is click on, and it brings up bestiary. And it shows vengeful spirits killed. 5 total. Have a progress bar. 2 progress bars for character. So progress bar A is a set of goals, right? If you kill a certain amount of monsters, of each type of monster, you will get a reward. Okay? You could set it up similar to how you have in the challenge section right here, right? You have, you get a title for killing 1,000, and a title for killing 5,000, and a title for killing 10,000. Tie the rewards to being something more extreme. So let's say at 10,000 bandits, say it takes over at 10,000, right? Because I have this. I already have this. I don't want to lose the titles. I mean, I really can. I don't care. But let's say starting at 10,000 is when it activates. When it activates in that category, you have to kill 10,000 of that monster. And obviously you could scale it for different things. So let's say the Butcher, right? Not everybody's going to encounter Butchers. Let's say it activates at 5 Butchers, right? Or how about World Bosses? Say it activates at 5 World Bosses. Or say at a specific Nightmare Dungeon boss, like Blood Bishop, or Den Mother, or Drowned Sea Hag. Say that it pops up after, say, 20 or 30 kills on that. Then it pops up. And the rewards get significantly better, but the amount of kills you need is better. So, you know, let's say I use 10,000 bandits right here just as an example. Okay, 10,000 bandits is where it starts. When you hit 50,000 bandits, you get your first reward. When you hit 100,000 bandits, you get your second reward. When you hit 1,000,000 bandits, you get your final reward. And it could be something simple as, let's say, 5 permanent intelligence for killing. Let's say, we're using bandits as an example. So let's say maybe dexterity. Okay, 5 permanent dexterity for that character and that character only. Not all your characters, not like Altar of Lilith, but say 5 dexterity. You might look and say, that's stupid. Why would I want 5 dexterity for that character? Well, that's just your first reward. Your second reward is maybe, say, an extra Paragon point that gets added to your board. And then maybe your third reward is something like an extra skill point or permanent 10% damage reduction from bandits only. You could cater a specific class qualification or for the enemy type that you get a bonus to it. Now, here's another thing. So these right here just reward you for killing things. But what if there was a system in place that incentivized you not dying to certain things? This is why I mentioned the Butcher earlier. So you have these rewards for buffing. What if this tracked how you died? Right? Because a lot of players don't die that often. What if it tracked how many times you died to that specific enemy? Let's say you die to bandits a certain amount of times, a debuff comes in. And when you hit that final debuff applies to all of your characters. It wouldn't be a major debuff, but I think that would be interesting. That could be an added layer of challenge. What if players intentionally go out into the wild, die to bandits, so that they can make the game harder on themselves? I think that's something interesting. And for characters that get kills more consistently, like world bosses and butchers, it would add a new wrinkle to the gameplay. Let's say, you know, Butcher's hook grab, right? Because you know the Butcher has the hook where he hooks you up, pulls you in like Scorpion. What if you had a debuff? If you die to the Butcher too many times, that negates crowd control immunities. It pulls you out of crowd control immunity. So if you're running something like, you know, Bubble, if you're running something like, you know, Unstoppable, like Earthen Bulwark or Rallying Cry, it still hits you regardless. Something like that. That might be a significantly penalizing reward. Obviously, hardcore characters wouldn't have that. But you could implement it to where all of those effects are shared on hardcore characters. So any hardcore characters you get, all of their stats are cumulative. So if you die to a Butcher in hardcore, you're going to count as 1. If your second character dies to a Butcher in hardcore, same thing. It's going to keep adding on and on and on. That's system number 1. Now, system number 2 is about the dungeon grind. So if you notice, they've been trying to fix Renown, because Renown is really annoying. Renown, they're comboing all the Renown together, and that bottom line is the only line that's important when it comes to Renown. So if you do it on one character, it never matters if you ever come back and work on Renown. You'll never worry about Renown again. It's a nice bonus to get a little bit of gold. You can just do Trio Whispers. Or bonus XP. It's not really enough XP to matter. So there's no purpose of doing Renown once you have the initial, the 10 skill points, the 5 extra potions, the 20 extra Paragon points, and I believe it's 400 extra Oblos. None of that matters. How do you fix Renown? Now, the different things that get checked off on Renown, you need waypoints to travel around the map. Strongholds, you can kind of reset and do them willy-nilly, they don't matter. Side quests, they're one and done, and even then, they don't give you enough of a reward, which I'll talk about that a little later. Areas discovered, you'll do that opening up the map and getting your Altars of Lilith. Altars of Lilith, you're doing that one time on one character and you're done. But side dungeons are that thing that you kind of can't fix, right? Now, The goal with side dungeons is that you use them to fill up your Codex of Power. And you can take one character and you can go through and you can do all the Codex of Power, get it done on every character, and then it doesn't matter. The majority of the time, the way a character is going to end up doing these dungeons is through Nightmare Sigils. 9 times out of 10, you're going to end up doing it by doing a Nightmare dungeon that's tied to it, as opposed to actually going out of your way and doing the dungeon. So what do I want to talk about here? There needs to be a reward system in place for completing every dungeon. You could have something tied to each unique dungeon, because a lot of these dungeons feel very same-like, right? I'll give you a great example, because most of these dungeons end the exact same way. Where is it? Lights Watch, right here, which is the Nightmare dungeon. And where is it? Not Demon's Wake. Bulwark. I know I've done it on this character. Not Stockades. Is that it? That's Old Stone. No, that's different. Whispering, no. Garen. I know it's over here. Tunnels. I'm gonna find it, I don't know. Well, anyways, the dungeon I'm talking about, all these dungeons feel exactly the same. A lot of these dungeons end with the same bosses, they have the same layouts, they just have different objectives, they have the same enemies. Why is there no system in place to give me a unique reward for clearing the dungeon? Now, I don't mean a Codex aspect. You get that on the first time you complete the dungeon. I'm fine with that. What about the more you repeat a dungeon, there's a system in place to track that. So right now there's a yellow dot over here, which means I haven't completed the dungeon on this character. Okay? Then you have dungeons that you have completed with the character, which don't have that yellow dot. There'll be a different marker if it's a dungeon that rewards you an aspect. I have the aspect, so I can't show you. Then there's a different marker if it has a Tree of Whispers on it, which it still has that little thing where it says, aspect rewarded for first completion. I have all the aspects. You don't need to tell me that game. Okay? Then there's another symbol that's on there. It's not going to be over here. There's another symbol on dungeons. Where's Halls of the Penitent? Here's Halls of the Penitent. Right? There's another sigil on there that indicates that there's a boss that you spawn in there, okay? Why are we not keeping track of this besides the initial boss spawn, or the initial dungeon clear? I saw the fucking world boss spawn, and so I decided to say boss spawn. I'm an idiot. Okay? So let's say you complete a dungeon once. You get the Codex of Power entry, right? If you complete, I know a lot of times people have talked about a system where there's a way to upgrade your Codex of Power entries. So obviously my thing is this. Every time you complete a dungeon, you gradually increase the power of the Codex of Power entry until you reach its max capacity. Now you could tie this to, say, you can't do a Nightmare dungeon. It has to be an open world. So as an example, let's pick a random ass dungeon. Actually, no, let's not pick a dungeon. What's a dungeon I know? Because I can explain it better that way. What's a dungeon I know? Well, I don't really want to do that. Ironhold. Shark Sanctum Ruins. Corrupted Grotto. Mercy's Reach. Okay, Mercy's Reach. Bloodseeker's aspect. Bloodlance deals 15% increased damage to its primary target per lance enemy. This scales 15 to 25%. So 25% is the maximum roll. Okay? Now, if I remember correctly, Mercy's Reach is over here. Yes, I do remember that. This is one of the very first dungeons I did in the beta. When I played the beta, and I did a dungeon, I did Mercy's Reach. No real reason. I just did Mercy's Reach with a friend of mine. I liked the idea of the way the dungeons were laid out. They were very different than the dungeons in D2 or in D3. I liked how they worked. You go in, you do a couple of objectives, and there's a boss at the end, and you kill the boss, and the boss fight is pretty nice. I like that idea, because this game does do boss fights pretty well. However, I complete Mercy's Reach, I get my Codex entry, I have no reason to ever come back to this dungeon, besides a Nightmare dungeon. How do you encourage the player to do that? Every time I come up and I complete Mercy's Reach, no Nightmare Dungeon, no Tree of Whispers tied to it. I have to do the dungeon for no beneficial gain to the player. I cannot do it to collect renown, which means I haven't done this dungeon on this character. I wouldn't get the reward for it. I would have to bang this dungeon out once in order for this to apply. I can't complete it as a Nightmare Dungeon. I can't complete it with somebody who hasn't completed it to get this reward, to like complete it for them. And I can't get this if it's a Tree of Whisper. So as an example, you know, you look at this dungeon right here, Derelict Lodge, I could, you know, just farm that out to get the 5 Whispers. I can't get a benefit. I would have to do this dungeon, and every time I complete this dungeon, let's say I get a 0.5% added to the Codex of Power entry for it. So the first time I do the dungeon, fresh, goes from 15 to 15.5. And then the second time goes to 16. And then the third time, 16.5. You get what I'm saying. You could tie this to individual characters, or you could tie this to the whole Codex of Power. Although I think that's a little cheesy, given how that could work. That is the way I would do it. A simpler way, if you don't want to level up the Codex of Power, if you think that breaks the game mechanic, fine. There is a guaranteed loot drop that is tied to this dungeon, right? Guaranteed drop. The boss or the objective at the end will always drop a specific item. Now, that doesn't have to be a legendary power. That doesn't have to be a unique. You could just simply have it as a specific class of weapon. So you know how at the end, if you kill a boss, I'll use Light's Watch because I've completed that relatively recently. When you kill the Dead Mother at the end, she's supposed to drop at least one item. You could tie it to where that item drop is always a fixed type of item. Still random, as long as it's yellow, sacred, or higher. Still random what it drops, but it will always drop, you know, let's say two-handed scythe. Let's say offhand, like a totem or a focus. Chest piece. Some type of a reward in place for completing dungeons multiple times to incentivize players to redo dungeons over and over again that are not just Nightmare Dungeons. I've rambled on this a little too far, and that's point number 2. Point number 3 that I have, this is something that somebody's mentioned before. Coming back over here. Side quests have no intrinsic value. Now, the first complaint that I have is there is a side quest limit, and I don't know why. I don't know why you can't have more than 20 side quests. If I want to have every single side quest in the game active and open, why can't I do that? Like, one thing that I think is funny, you see how many of these dungeons, the layout of Nightmare Dungeons is Nightmare Dungeons is where I'll complete most of these, by the way. Because the layout on side quests are terrible. 90% of the side quests that I do not complete are simply, I pick up a quest, I'm like, great, what do I go do? Go into this dungeon. Do something in the dungeon. Look at how many quests I have. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5. I have 5 side quests just in Fractured Peaks. 5 out of the 6 side quests I have over here are go in the dungeon, do something, return to this person. This quest right here that I haven't completed ends with me going up to Mercy's Reach and getting a fucking side quest item. And I haven't done it yet. Look, go into a dungeon. This is one of the few examples right here. But once you turn this in, guess what it's gonna do? When you turn it in, he gives you another quest in the line, right? And it wants you to go to a dungeon. This one right here. Find the caravan, go tell the bad news to somebody else. That's the layout on a lot of these, right? Find this person in an area, do something with them, go back and turn in. Find these people, give them something, go back, turn in. Find these people, go back, talk to somebody, go to a dungeon, do the dungeon, turn in. Go to a dungeon, do something, turn in. Go to a dungeon, do something, turn in. Right? There's not a lot of unique stuff. This one right here. Go to a dungeon, do something, go back. another one. Find these items, bring them back to a person, do something. This one right here, this is another type of side quest. This is a random drop side quest. So this is something that you have to go out into the environment to find this, which is just kill a certain amount of enemies in this area. Congratulations, you're done. Right? This one right here, this is a similar thing. Go around and talk to a bunch of people, find the person you're looking for, get them killed, kill the monster that killed them, turn in. All of these dungeons are, all of these side quests suck. There's a couple of options like, alright, Kegel has a few options. You can talk to Shallows over here. He sends you to go kill some goat men over here. You'll meet this dude by the water, which is basically just him telling you, I couldn't complete the stronghold. Do it for me. Like, you get the mission, you complete that side quest without doing the stronghold, by the way. He just tells you there's a stronghold over there. Which is stupid. Kill a bunch of shit, come back to town, turn in, congratulations. Him with the scorpions. Kill scorpions in Kazakhstan. Come back, turn into him, get a cash. There's no creativity in side quests. And side quests don't give you enough experience. They give you a shitty cache that either gives you materials, crafting materials, or it'll give you one item, which will be either blue or yellow. And you know what you're going to do with that item? You're going to go take it over to a blacksmith and you're going to salvage it unless you are very early in the game leveling 1 through 50. None of these side quests are actually appealing. Now, there are some branching narrative storyline quests. I'll give a decent example. In Wajani over here, there is the Witch in the Tower. This is the only side quest in the game that gives you an end game reward if you do it above level 72, level 73, so you can get the better item roll on it. You will get an item that has very good stats on it that can be that you can roll in a very good stat. So this quest right here is like one of the only things in the game that gives you an item that's any good. There's a couple of quests, like in Zarbinzet, there's the Anita storyline where you're supposed to follow her around and get a relatively shitty amulet that gives you fire resist. Same thing, if you do the quest in Hazar, if you do Linden's line, he'll give you the skeleton key, which is a dagger. You see how I'm not really thrilled about any of the rewards tied to side quests. They're not rewarding enough. How do you fix side quests? To me, my first thing would be progress bar. So, you see how in your Renown, Hazar has 50 side quests to complete, right? Every 10 side quests levels up the loot that you get from each cache. So instead of them being fixed drops, so to speak, you would tie the drops to your level. That's thing number one, because I can't tell you how many times, if I'm on a late game character and I get bored, like if I'm waiting on somebody, they're going to the bathroom, and we're Nightmare Dungeon grinding, and I decide I want to do something in the meantime besides just sit by Tree of Whispers and wait on them. Let's say I go side quest farming, and I just start knocking out side quests. I do side quests here, I do side quests here. Okay, here's a great example. This is a quest that you do around level 20, which means the piece of gear that drops for you is gonna be a low-level piece of shit you're never gonna use. So if you never do this quest until, like me, you get bored in your endgame, your reward is meaningless. You get no experience, you get nothing of value besides the raw resources, which I can get more from killing things in the environment. I'll get a better reward from killing things in the dungeon than I will from turning the side quests in. And all the side quests are so monotonous, right? Some of the more interesting side quest lines, like in Kivishad, their Sister Octavia storyline, right? Why is she not a main NPC? Why does she not sit in town somewhere? I can go and talk to her periodically for NPC dialogue, like you can some of the strangers in town, if they don't die in their side quest. Why is that not a thing, right? It's like you do the side quest and they're done, they're gone, kaput, bye-bye, patooey. So, Give me a progression system where I can level up the loot I receive from side quests that is specifically tied to the completions. That fixes the system. Right here in Fractured Peaks, there are 38 side quests for me to do in Fractured Peaks. So, example, I have 22 of them done. Okay, well, that's a good way to level up early on. I have 22 done. It doesn't matter what level I am when I complete the side quest. The first, let's divide it by 4. The first 6 to 8 side quests that I do, I will get dog shit. No experience, no level, no real reward. But as I level up, I can get a better and better reward. So let's say by the time I turn in the last side quest in the region, the 38th of 38th, I am guaranteed to get a decent, significant reward as a mark of completion for doing all of the side quests in a region. Which, mind you, some of these are relatively hard to find. Or another example, so like along the way, you know, you start off where you get a blue, right? Because you're low level. You could keep that at any level. Then you get a yellow. When you do more, then you get a random legendary. A random legendary power. I know legendaries have different drop rates, okay? And I can prove that because if you look at my powers, I have all of these Bloodlance ones, right? All of these Bloodlances. They're very common. This is an aspect I use a lot. Blood Wave hits multiple times. This drops one of the least amounts in the entire game. Another example that I can show, I don't know if I have, I do not have it in here. It's in Codex. It's resource. I want to show a specific one because I know people that haven't gotten it. Here we go. Each time Chain Lightning bounces, you gain mana, okay? There are people that have never gotten this to drop in-game, besides from Codex of Power, that are just permanently playing with the 1.5 mana. My point is this. Okay. Obviously, you don't want to tie a valuable, legendary aspect like this to a side quest reward. So you take those hard drops and pull them out of the pool for side quests. But I still feel like I'm getting a reward for doing 38 side quests. Point number 3. That's point number 3, sorry. Point number 4, because I need to move this along. So we've covered the open world a little bit, right? Why is there no usage system? Okay, so as an example, challenges here. Coming back to challenges, let's look at your classes. Okay, let's look at our barbarian here. You want to know what challenges you got for our burb? Reach X level as a barbarian. I believe it's 50, 75, and 100. Go berserk 200 times, which you have to build into. Okay. Use your shouts 500 times, which you have to build into. Kill 30 vulnerable enemies in 15 seconds, which you have to build into. Kill 150 stunned enemies with overpower attacks. Now that requires you to double build, because you have to build stun, and you have to build overpower. Kill enemies quickly with multiple weapon types. Essentially, this is get like 3 kills with 3 different weapons in 3 seconds. Something like that, right? I don't know how I got this. Okay? You have to build into that, because that's a walking arsenal build. It's not a one-weapon build. Kill elites quickly with multiple weapon types. Same thing, but as weapon master, but for stronger enemies. Okay, that's fine. That's good. Good, right? Very specific build into. Spend 130 fury in 5 seconds. That is incredibly easy to do because you just run something like kick, which consumes all your fury in one usage, and you just build your maximum fury up. If you have a base of 100, you can get an extra 9 from the skill tree, and then you get some gear that gives you some extra fury, and you just go bam and kick 1 time and you get it instantly. But again, you have to build into that, right? Unlock 2 legendary nodes as a barbarian. You'll literally get that through Paragon as long as you just pick 2 of them and not avoid them and go for glyphs. Use Death Blow 20 times within 10 seconds. This again requires you to use a specific skill. So you see how you have all of these rewards. all these different rewards that require you to build into. And what do you get? You get a fucking title. Have I mentioned again I don't like how that system works? So, there's also people that make multiple characters, that make multiple builds, okay? And most characters, when they make a build, they have core skills that they like to run. I don't mean core skills as core damage skills. I mean core skills as like, every one of my necromancers runs a golem. I believe every one of my necromancers runs corpse tendrils. I like corpse explosion. I'm always running either corpse explosion or a skeleton to consume corpses, right? These are skills that I run a lot. Why is there not a progression tree or a level up tree for individual skills that is based off of the usage of the skill itself as a way to show me like skill? Get the caveman brain going a little bit. Show some creativity, okay? Here's a great example of that. I run corpse tendrils on every necromancer build that I have. It's not something that I need to max out to level 5, but it's also not something that I, like having at level 1. So it's a random skill that I dump points into, but it's essential to the build because of how it functions. Why is there not a system where if you complete a super absurdly ridiculous obtuse challenge with an individual skill, you get the second unique option with it? Give people something to farm. How about kill a boss with the final damage dealing blow being from corpse tendrils? Like, I'm not saying a boss as in like an elite or a champion. I'm talking about Blood Bishop. I'm talking a Butcher. I'm talking a Shiva the Pestilent. I'm talking Uber Duriel. Complete something ridiculous. Get a reward. Get the other reward in the tree. Reward players for playing around with a specific skill. Or for these little ranks right here. If the skill activates enough times, like this right here, this is whenever a corpse is formed from your skills or your minions, you fortify for 6% of your maximum life. Why don't you get base rank points of this if it activates enough? You can put a ridiculous, stringent requirement on it, but it's still some form of passive leveling that the community could get something out of. The fifth and final point that I have to talk about is a little bit of an interesting one, because it's a type of progression that we don't yet have into the game. Now, in the expansion leak that I hinted at the beginning of the video, if you're still here, is runestones. Runestones are being rumored to come either in Season 3 or in whatever this new expansion that we're going to get is. Runestones are from D2. Okay? Now, that means it shows that they're willing to bring over content from other games into this game in order to bring nostalgia back for the player base. Why do we not have a system in place to vote online or in-game as to what we want to see upcoming? There's a lot of live service games that have similar things to that. That when you log in, they will give you an email, they will give you a blurb and say, hey, here's a link to this website, go fill out this survey for future content going forward. I know as an example, games like the Konami eFootball has surveys that they send out. Vote on who you want your next star card to be. You're going to be gambling for it. Vote on who you want to see. Killing Floor has surveys. Hey, fill out this survey. What'd you think of this last seasonal content that we had? Ship it back in. Deep Rock Galactic has surveys online. Hey, fill it out. Send it back in. Evil Dead, the game, the defunct game. Texas Chainsaw, semi-defunct game. Surveys, go online, fill out, give us some feedback. Why? If the developers are working on this content, Season 1 as well, it was poorly received. Players leave. Season 2 has been well received, but a lot of people say it's not enough. Here's more balance change ideas. And they're like, we're working on it. We're working on it. No. Pause. They're working on the things they want to work on. Well, the player base is hemorrhaging players. And they're continuing to throw these ludicrously priced skins down our throat. This skin right here is $28.
Interesting choice.
And the reason why, I love how they change it to a male, because if I were to show off the female version of the skin, the video gets demonetized, okay? Or this is right here. This is a $25 skin for the Light King World of Warcraft mount, okay? This is one of the only things in the game I would consider paying money for as of right now. I ain't paying $25 for a horse skin that I'm 90% sure I'm not going to run. This looks kind of cute. What is this? $18. $18 for a kitty. $18 for a kitty backpack for one character. I actually kind of like that. Now, obviously, none of these things are things that you need, so to speak. However, I really do like that kitty one. The kitty one's something I would actually consider. Then you get shit like this. Race Lord weapon skins. Necromancer only. $16. So you're shoving this dribble at us. We're not getting any feedback. You have Activision licenses because they made a big blurb to let you know, hey, come get your Diablo and your Lilith skins over in COD. Limited time, come on. Or how about the skins that they have over in Overwatch 2, which is another game of theirs. Hey, spend a shit ton of money and you can get Butcher Roadhog. I believe it's Lilith Moira. There's a Reinhardt and a Wrecking Ball skin and a Forest skin, I think. I know there's Pharah, Wrecking Ball, Moira, Rein, and Roadhog. I don't know what the other skins are, if anything else. They have those. Why don't we get to vote on that? Like, if you want players to spend money on more than just that dribble, because I'm good with my character customization. I'm going to exit here because I'm about to end this. I'm going to show you some of my other skins just as an example. I'm happy with how the majority of my characters look. The majority of my characters that I doll up look good. At least they look what I'm going for. Like, as an example, Kratos looks like Kratos. As close as I can get. It looks fairly accurate. Right? The sorceresses that are named after Witcher characters, they don't look like the Witcher characters. I have the general design appeal, white hair, black hair, red hair, and they're based around different element type, right? But again, I have them built a certain way. This character looks like some type of a ice wizard. This character looks like some type of a fire sorceress, right? This character right here looks like a bloody, gutty, gory necromancer type character. This character is as close as I can get to Ash from Overwatch. Right? This dude looked like a Samoan wrestler. Examples like that. I can get pretty decent results on my characters with the base game cosmetics. If you want us to spend money, or you want to balance new content, give us a way to vote.